Oh, it is.
Hello, welcome to our trolley tour of the Charleston Tea Plantation, America's only large-scale tea farm. I'm Bill Hall, an expert third-generation tea taster trained in London, England, founder and partner of the Charleston Tea Plantation. On this tour, I'm going to tell you more about this amazing plant and give you a look behind the scenes of a working farm on which it grows. So please sit back, relax, and enjoy your trip as we travel through the tea fields of the Charleston Tea Plantation.
Now, before we get, I'm going to pull up to the second field because we'll be in this guy and the harvester's way here. But I'll tell you about the harvester as I get in front of it here for you. And of course, if you've been in the factory tour already, you saw the leaf on the withering bed. It's all coming from this field here. And the harvester that's coming towards us is one of a kind in the world. They invented it out here in the 70s, taking parts off the tobacco and a cotton harvester. And when there's a hopper in the back, and when it's full, it weighs around 700 pounds of leaf. They'll lift it into a truck, take it to the tea maker, and immediately start the process of making tea. They always make black tea in the summertime when it's hot and humid because it's a 19 to 20 hour process. Humidity won't affect grinding. The green tea has to be done quickly, so they always do that in the fall. And it's not a John Deere, it's just painted green. They do harvest they cut the field row twice. I can see he's coming back on the same row he just cut, because usually when you go down there, some of the leaves get pushed down going that way. So he'll come back and get the second, cutting off that and catch the ones that got pushed down. But that's the harvester there. And I'm just going to move up to the next field so it'll be out of the way. Are the experimental fields that Lipton Tea Company started back in the early 60s as an experiment to see if tea could be grown in North America. Now they picked out here to try because it had high temperatures, high humidity, lots of rainfall like for sandy soil, and that's perfect for growing tea. The other dilemma they needed to solve, and they could fix it by coming here, is where to find the actual tea plants to start this experiment. About 30 miles west of here is the town of Somerville. And in Somerville, Dr. Shepherd in 1887 imported 100 plants from China and India and began growing them up in an area called Pinehurst. He did well within it to his death in 1915. No one else wanted to grow the tea, so the field was abandoned. Lipton said that's where they could go up there and find those plants, get cuttings off the top of them, and they bring them back here to plant within this tree line you see to your right. Well, they made one big mistake when they went up there to get the cuttings, though, and that was that they should have carried some ladders with them, because when they found them, they were well over 15 feet tall. Okay. And a tea plant can grow over 20 feet tall if you don't cut them in their lifetime. You don't want them that tall because they get very branchy and they won't have as much leaf on them as what you see here today. This height is what we call the tabletop of the tea plant, which is the height of the harvester that's going over the top and cutting off anything above that. They found this height is where you get the maximum yield of leaf off the plant. Now, right before it starts to grow, we usually do this the second week of March of every year. They go over every field with a specialized tractor that's at the same height as the harvester, and it has a large pruning mechanism off the back of it at that height. They'll go to the top to remove all the old leaves that were left over from the previous season higher than it. You get rid of those because, like all plants, a tea plant will develop its waxy film like its leaf. And if you use old leaves to make tea, it makes it taste very bitter, similar to fresh leaves. If you look at this field, this one's probably when you cut them all down. You can see the top's got nice bright shiny leaves to it. As soon as you look down and see how dull the leaf is joined, that's the waxy buildup you would not use. So after you ride around the farm, you'll see different heights of field. You can tell what they will cut off. It's always right above the ground. Now, Lipton stayed in here until 1987 and sold it to Bill Hall. Bill was a third-generation certified tea taster. That means he had to go to school for 4 years in London to learn how to become one. His father and grandfather were tea tasters as well, And anything to the left of the experimental field is what he grew, and it's a 127-acre farm. Now in 2003, he decided he needed a partner, so that's when he asked his good friends, the Bigelows, to come to him. They came in to grow the business. He would continue to grow and harvest it, and since 2003, they've built it from themselves and production has been right. All the tea that's grown here will be produced in our factory back there under the name of Charleston Tea Garden. They do not sell this tea to any other company. It's always under this name. And when they're ready to put it into tea bags, they're going to ship it by truck to Fairview, Connecticut, where the Bigelows will have a packaging plant. It's cheaper to get it trucked up there, put in tea bags, boxed, and sent back to us than it was something like that. Now, while it's up there, they're not going to mix with what their teas are about. Bigelow tea comes from Southeast Asian countries, so keep them separate. It says Chilston Tea Garden. Loose teas are managed here, flavoring is down here as well, and where you flavor all tea. Not just the finished product, you put it in big drums, you spray it with natural oil or whatever flavor, that's how you flavor tea. Now a couple more things, when I'm finishing up, I'm going to pass this around and welcome and try it tonight. It's a hand lotion that's been infused with tea oil from our plant, and they're looking for ways to use tea on products, so if you want to try it, please. It's going to get a little loud here in a minute because he's getting closer. But if you live in the southern states and you drove into the farm, you probably would say this plant looks a little familiar to you, and that's because it is a camellia. It's a cousin to the camellias we grow here. This is the Chinese camellia, which makes it the tea plant. Yeah. This one's got jasmine as the other. And all tea comes from the same plant, green, black, and oolong. Just great fruits and manufacturers of the teas. And we haven't been doing it yet, I'll show you how to do that. Keep in mind, herbal tea is great to drink, but it's coming from other plants. They call that tea because they make it the same way, and it has to be from this plant to be a true tea. Now, there is a fourth tea that you don't hear a lot about. It's called white tea. Have you ever heard of white tea? Does anybody know what part of the plant is make white tea? All right, I'll show you. I'll walk back. You can see this. Green, black, and oolong are standardly made around the world the same. They're world requirements. On white tea, there are no requirements, and we're not making it here. It's mostly made in the third world country where labor is very cheap. I'm going to get that too. I'll come get it. Now, for white tea, if you're going to make it, this is a stem off the plant. If you pull the leaves down, you see this unopened leaf bottle on the very top right there? That's what you're going to use to make white tea, just that. That's why it's so much more expensive because of the labor involved.
Wow, I would say that's
Just that part right there. So, yeah, they will. You're going to see them, I'm sure they do.
They have questions about it.
No, I'll show you how they do it.
Okay. It takes a lot of those.
Right.
Are those both the same flavor?
Yeah, there is a one in there called mangoes a little bit more.
We've arrived at the first stop on our tour. Out of the right side of the trolley are roughly 25,000 tea plants. These bushes are cousin to the common southern Camellia japonica and sasanquum. Tea plants are called Camellia sinensis. Sinensis in Latin means Chinese. Therefore, Camellia sinensis stands for Chinese camellia. This was the first field to be planted on the farm. These plants grew from cuttings taken from tea plants that were brought into this country from China over 100 years ago. You could say we're looking at a real piece of living American history. Looking out the window, we see subtle color changes indicating different sinensis varieties. There are over 320 varieties of Camellia sinensis in this field. This is the only plant used to make tea. Green, oolong, and black, all three varieties come from the same plant. Tea loves high temperature, high humidity, and good rainfall. And of course, Charleston provides all three in large quantities. Tea, however, does not like wet feet. This means soggy roots. As you ride around, you will notice we have many ditches next to the tea fields. This is for good drainage. The soil here is fairly sandy, which allows the rain to drain quickly into the ditches and away from the tea plants. We are very proud of the restoration project that has taken place with our plants. Partnering with Bigelow Tea back in 2003 has provided the tea plantation with the needed resources to care for our plants and bring modern horticultural practices to the farm. This will ensure that Charleston Tea Plantation has a bright and healthy future. Each year since 2003, we've been able to more than double the previous year's yield of fresh leaf harvested from the fields. This enables us to bring more of our great tea to more and more tea lovers across the United States. We've been incredibly fortunate to have the Bigelow family, who you've just heard purchase this beautiful place in 2003, continue to support us in our endeavors to grow tea in the United States. Our success is fueled by the passion of Mr. and Mrs. Bigelow and their love for the tea plantation. On their frequent visits, they often find themselves enjoying a cup of tea on the front porch, looking out over the hundreds of thousands of tea plants stretching out over acre and acre of land. Now, sit back and enjoy the views as we journey past more tea fields into the back of the farm.
Now back here, you're only going to find 8 varieties of the tea plant versus the 320 that are in the front field. Bill chose these 8 to make up the American Classic tea because they found they grow the best out here on this island. But it's not these 8 that actually give the tea its flavor. It's the nutrients and minerals of the soil that flavor tea. If you were to dig the plants up and plant them somewhere else in the world, the tea would taste different. Now as you start riding through here, you'll notice everything's in large rectangles. That's because Bill divided the 127-acre farm into 18 sections, cutting 1 section a day. They can cut each field an average of 7 times in a season, but sometimes they get a 9th and 10th cutting off of it. It really just depends on how long the humidity and temperature stay around into the late fall. But they only harvest the top and not the side. The side's considered the woody part of a tea plant. And if you were to cut the side, you're going to end up with lots of stems in the harvest. You take that back to the factory, it slows down the whole process. Now Bill's going to come back on and refer to that pump station to your left and a little bit more information about the plants and the alligators.
Charleston Tea Plantation is located on a very special piece of land in the Low Country. Nestled away just 30 minutes from historic downtown Charleston, Wadmalaw Island has not only been able to maintain its agricultural roots and also has an amazing history of its own. As you drove down Maybank Highway, did it seem as if you were going back into another period of time? It's a feeling which island residents guard as one would a precious jewel. On the left is part of our pond transfer and irrigation system. It allows us to move water to and from each of the 3 ponds depending on the demand from our irrigation system. Tea likes about 1 inch of rain per week or 52 inches per year. Normally, Mother Nature provides us with enough rainfall. However, sometimes she can be a little stingy. And for baby plants in the field, this can be a problem. That's when our irrigation kicks in and provides the water needed to keep them happy. Tea, once mature, is a very healthy plant, which can live for hundreds of years. In fact, there's tea on record 600 years old, still producing a fine quality tea. Our season begins in April and runs through the end of October. During this time, new leaves grow up approximately every 15 to 18 days. Therefore, we stagger the farm into 18 sections for harvesting, 1 section per day, and by the 18th day, we're back at the original field. We are proud to say we do not use any pesticides in the growing of our tea. You might see some weeds growing up above the plants, but rest assured, they're hand-pulled just before we harvest that field.
I'm coming out into the greenhouse. I'll go inside here and I'll explain how they're trying to finish up the farm. Once they get out in the field at about 18 inches tall, it takes another 3 years to be big enough to start harvesting. Now we are in a transition period right now. I think they said about 2 more weeks they're going to have 7,000 new cuttings in here. You see, they already got the pots ready to go. They filled them up with potting soil and plant food. These other plants here to the right, someone's going to ask about. They left these when they planted the other ones, but we were way behind schedule doing that. They got root bound, and so they cut them way back just recently, and they're trying to nurture them back. But if they lose them, they lose them. It's not that many there, but that's why they're still in there. But anyway, once they get them ready to go, they're going to take all the pots, spread them out on all the tables. Then they're going to turn those sprinklers loose and hang down with the pipes on for 2 solid days. They're going to saturate the soil with a very slow, misty spray. Then, apply the field. They cut 3 nodes down on the reddish brown color stem. And all plants have different color stems. As they mature, they change. But the reddish brown, I showed you that with the white and the green stem. That one here. And then with the hard stem, so they bring it in, cut the top off flat. Vine gets cut on a sharp angle and stuck in the pot. Cutting it flat will force the stem to grow down, develop its root system. It can't get any taller. The new growth would come off the side, off leaf nodes. The first 2 months they're in there, they get watered every 25 minutes for 10 seconds, 1 row at a time. Bill came up with that. I don't know how, but it works. But after that, they turn the water off and starve them. That way the new roots dig deep looking for water, and they only water them every 5 days. Wintertime, they want the soil to be above 55 degrees. If that was to change, one of the pots has a thermometer probe in it. It triggers the water heater to cut on, and it runs warm water through the black tubing on the table set, so it warms the plants from underneath. Of course, air temperatures at 85 or less, you can see one exhaust fan on. When they both can't keep up with it, the wall to your left will cut on. It's got a honeycomb-shaped texture to it. They drip cool water down the inside of it. The darker it gets, the more water's in there, and these 2 fans would vaporize it, bring it across the plants. They commonly call them swamp coolers, and use them out in the Southwest sometimes instead of air conditioners. They also use them in barns to cool animals and birds. Dead patches, and that's just where plants have died over the years for some reason or another. Very hard to replace plants inside a mature section because tea plants have an enormous root system, and they'll choke out any new growth they try to reestablish. You can plant them on the edges, but not on the ground. Coming up on your right is another live oak tree, and we call this one a wedding tree. Here it's in Charleston. We have a lot of outdoor weddings, and when they have them here, it's always set up and decorated underneath that tree. If you think this tree's large, and you haven't seen Angel Oak Tree, which you passed coming out here, it's free to get into. It's in a city park right behind a church you went down the highway. But it makes this one look like a baby tree. It's got a limb on 11 feet circumference and over 107 feet long. And they say the ground underneath all the limbs is almost a ½ acre of land, so that's how big it is. So worth seeing if you haven't. Now I'm going to turn left here, but as I do, look to your right, you'll see acres of fields back in that area. They have them tucked all behind the different tree lines. It kind of protects them from wind and storm damage. But they have over 300,000 plants planted on the farm so far. And coming up on the right is another irrigation pond. They have 3 of them on the farm, and they keep lots of fish in the pond. I can see some turtles, that are the little turtle in the algae there. You'll see them all over the place in there. But we don't spray for mosquitoes out here because they don't want the chemicals on the leaf of the tea plant, so they rely on the fish to help them with that. And we do have alligators, and we don't put them in there, it's just natural habitat. This one's got a 4-foot one in there. The other ones have some bigger ones, and they move back and forth on us all the time. We got pictures of them walking out of this pond down the road to the other pond, so they'll move around on us. And I was trying to see, we had wild turkeys on that field out here last time around, but it must be gone again. Now, on your left is where the young plants from the greenhouse were planted. They're 18 inches apart down the road. Each row will be 2.5 feet once they get everything in there and ready to go. And when they finish this whole area, they'll open up another field. Now, if you wanted to compare our farm with the farms somewhere else in the world, we're considered a small tea farm. But if you were somewhere else, we would need 500 workers to harvest all the tea you see growing out here. And that's because they handpick the tea in other parts of the world where it's always grown on a hillside or a mountainside for the drainage in these porch root system. Because of a harvester, we only need 3 people to take care of all the plants on the farm. And we have one other man that works with the tea, and that's the tea maker who runs the factory. And in some parts of the world, they pay those workers the equivalent of $2.80 a week to make tea. Bill's going to come back on, give you a little bit more information about these young plants and the pond.
We've arrived at the back 40, so they say, where we've recently planted cuttings from our greenhouse. As you've just heard at our greenhouse, our entire planting is from cuttings and not from seeds. These plants form roots in our greenhouse and then are planted to the field with drip tubing irrigation lines next to each plant. This allows us to provide the water if Mother Nature holds back on us. These plants will start giving us leaf in about 1 year when they will be tall enough to be harvested. By the 4th year in the field, they will reach maturity and yield decades of fresh leaf that will be processed and used in our different varieties of tea we offer. Out of the windows of the trolley, you see our main irrigation pond. We call it Pond 3. Pond 2 you saw from a distance at our last stop, and Pond 1 is in front of the farm by the first bend in the driveway when you enter the plantation from Maybank Highway. The pump house you see to the right of the pond is being completely refurbished with the latest irrigation equipment from around the world. But that's only the beginning of the story. Remember the pump house we pointed out to you next to Pond 2? Well, from that pump house we can control the level of water in all 3 ponds. If we need more water in this pond, we simply have to open and close a series of valves and water will transfer from either Pond 1 or Pond 2. That's very important since each time we irrigate our new plants, we needed approximately 35 to 40,000 gallons of water. Tea is a very environmentally friendly crop to Guatemala Island. First, once tea is planted, the soil will never be tilled again. Therefore, no soil erosion will take place. Second, we do not use any insecticides or fungicides which can harm our plants, other plants, animals, or the environment. And last but not least, we plant approximately 4,900 oxygen-producing plants per acre. On the left are those new plants from our greenhouse, and each year we continue to plant more plants in the open sections of the farm.
You know, right before